Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken. Today, guys, we are here to review another 4K. Today, we're talking about another Criterion title. I am killing it with the Criterion 4K reviews this month, guys. Oh my goodness. But Scarface on 4K is what we're going to be talking about today. Scarface from 1932. Not to be confused with Scarface, the Brian De Palma classic from 1983, which I will kind of talk about this movie and maybe compare it a little bit to that version as well. But we're going to be talking about the movie. We're going to be talking about the 4K restoration. Is this worth picking up? You only got so much time left in the sale. I think I'm going to be putting this out like maybe a day or two before the sale ends. It ends on December the 2nd. So I'm going to let you guys know, is this worth a pickup before the sale ends? Because this 4K is $25 right now. In the sale after that, it'll go back up to $35. There's also a Blu-ray version as well right now for $20. Then it'll go up to $27.99 after the sale. But I'm going to let you guys know, is the transfer worth it? Is the movie worth it? Also, the special features we'll get into. We'll talk about the audio for a bit. We'll just paint the overall picture, guys. That's what I like to do here on this channel. But before we get into it, though, guys, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We talk about all things physical media on this channel, Blu-rays, 4Ks, owning the movies that you love, all that stuff there behind me every single day. If you like that kind of thing, hit that subscribe button. And then comment down below, guys, what do you think about Scarface from 1932? Do you like this one better than the 1983 version directed by Brian De Palma starring Al Pacino? Let me know that in the comments section below. So I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to be up front right here and now. I've never seen Scarface 1932 until this Criterion release. I've always wanted to since I saw the Brian De Palma version. I heard about this one because I just watched the Brian De Palma Scarface, I think, for the first time back in 2020. So I was new to that one as well. And then I wanted to watch this one because there was a time about 4 years ago I was really getting in to what they call pre-code movies. So the movies from the early 30s, like before the censors started coming in and really taming things down with as far as like what they could show, what they could portray in some of these movies in the early 30s. But it was post-silent film. It was before the censors came in and kind of, dumbed stuff down. So these movies from like the early 30s are really kind of unhinged and kind of great, to be honest. Just how like raw and more realistic they feel and what the artists are trying to portray on screen. So I really love this time period for movies. Like I went on a binge of like 15 movies from 1931 back in 2020. My idea at that time was I'm going to go through every year of the 30s, but I just really got stuck in 1931. I was like, I love all of these movies. They're so great. That's when I watched Fritz Lang's M for the first time. City Lights, Dracula, Frankenstein. That's when the Universal Monsters started, was 1931. There's a lot of great movies in the early 30s. Freaks came out in 1932. It's like this time period for movies is one of the truly great time periods for film, in my opinion. I need to check out more movies. I watched Public Enemy as well. But Scarface, I had never seen. And I'll say this up front, guys. This movie, while not as big and grandiose and epic as the 1983 version, it's every bit as great in its own right. Like, I really enjoy this film, mostly for the unhinged performance of Paul Mooney in this film as Tony Camonte, I think is his name in this. That's the one difference between this one and that one. This is a remake, but his name's Tony Montana. In the Scarface, Al Pacino's character is Tony Montana. In this movie, it's Tony Camonte. That's what Paul Mooney plays. And he's got like a literal like very noticeable scar on his face to kind of hammer home the fact that he is the Scarface. But I love Paul Mooney in this. And what I'll say is there's a very distinct difference between what Paul Mooney is doing as this character and what Al Pacino is doing as the character of Tony Montana. Because the character of Tony Montana, he starts off sympathetic. Like he starts off very charismatic. It feels like by the time you get to the end of the movie, it's a tragedy, right? Like you really empathize with him as a character. You don't really empathize with Tony Camonte in this movie. Like he's a despicable human being from the first frame of the film all the way to the end of the movie where he's cowering, please don't kill me. Like he is a despicable individual, unhinged, not a good guy, like the entire time. A complete psychopath, where as Tony Montana, like it's a gradual progression to on his journey to being a psychopath. And Scarface, like, he starts off as kind of a good guy, like his intentions are good. Of course, he's doing bad things, but his intentions are good. He just wants to, you know, build himself up in the world. And then, of course, power, greed, money, that kind of takes over. This movie, the guy knows what he wants, like, right from the beginning, and he's not a good guy. So I love the performance of Paul Mooney in this movie. He feels like he is just, I don't know, he's head and shoulders above, like, everybody else in this film. And everybody's great in the movie. I love the two actresses in the film. The girl that plays his sister is great, and the girl that plays his quote-unquote girlfriend in the movie, even though she's with another guy, the head mob boss that's at the beginning of the movie. She's with that guy, or the head gangster, who is actually Osgood Perkins, which is Anthony Perkins' dad, which is the grandfather, I guess, to Osgood Perkins, who directed Longlegs. So I thought that was kind of interesting that the Perkins bloodline runs all the way back to the 20s and 30s, because I didn't know their Anthony Perkins' dad acted. So he plays in this film. You also got Boris Karloff in this movie as well. Just a really cool movie. It's action-packed. It's energetic. It will keep your attention. It's 93 minutes long, so it's definitely not, you know, as long as the De Palma version. But it gets in, it gets out. It knows what kind of movie it wants to be, just like Paul Mooney as Scarface knows what kind of gangster he wants to be right from the beginning. It doesn't waste any time. There's no fat in this film, and I just loved it. I thought it was great. Now, I still think that the De Palma film is the better movie overall, but if you told me this was your favorite, I wouldn't argue with you. I think it's a damn good movie. You know, not even for the time period of the early 30s. I just think it's a damn good movie in general. So Scarface from 1932 is a fantastic film. Now, getting into the transfer, guys. Now, there is information on the transfer on the little pamphlet booklet that they have on the inside right here. So I'm gonna, instead of trying to remember everything, I'm going to just read it so I don't look like a goof on camera. Scarface is presented in the aspect ratio of 1:35:1. This new 4K restoration was created from a 35mm duplicate negative. So it's not the original negative, it's a duplicate negative. And the original mono soundtrack was remastered from a 35mm nitrate composite. So there you have it. Now, I'll say this about the transfer, guys. It looked good. But I think that's, here's the thing. We have said, and I could just sit here and say it's a good 4K for the time period, right? It's a good 4K for the early 30s. But we already have a few stellar 4Ks from 1931, 1932. The Universal Monster movies look exceptional in 4K. They look absolutely fantastic. There's great detail there in all the faces and everything. And the entire just look of the movies have great clarity and look awesome on 4K. Scarface looks good on 4K, but I'll be completely honest, it doesn't have the clarity that the Universal Monster movies do. Like, there is a very thick, heavy grain over this picture to the point where I've seen people talk about this 4K online, and they said it almost felt like a VHS to them. And me personally, I don't think it's that bad. Like, actually watch Scarface on VHS. It's not that bad. So I think it is a good looking 4K overall, but I struggle because we have great looking 4Ks from the early 30s with Dracula and Frankenstein, and those have HDR as well, which I think that, I don't know if HDR would have improved the presentation here, because another thing you have to remember, guys, is not every movie is created equally. Like, this movie, I think, had a smaller budget. It was more independent for its time. Yes, it was a Universal movie as well, but I don't think it had the budget that Dracula and Frankenstein did. And I also don't think that it's been preserved the same way. I think there was a long period of time where this movie was kind of lost. Like, they had to actually dig this one up to put it back into circulation. I think for decades it was lost. So you don't know the condition of those original elements and what they had to deal with and work with when they duplicated it, because this is a restoration from the duplicate negative, not the actual negative. So you don't know, again, not every movie is created equally. You don't know what they were dealing with here. I'm sure Criterion put the best possible work into this 4K, and it looks the best that it can possibly look on 4K. But again, I struggle because, like, those Universal Monster movies from the early 30s, like Frankenstein, Dracula, The Mummy, they look so freaking good on 4K. It's mind-blowing how good they look, and Scarface does not look that good. Now, what I will say with this 4K is I don't think, unless you just really want the 4K, guys, unless you just really want that 4K because you think it's going to look a little bit better, and it does look a little bit cleaner than the Blu-ray. But honestly, with this, I suggest just getting that Blu-ray that is going for $27.99, $20 right now, because I think the Blu-ray looks pretty much as good as the 4K does in this particular package right here. So that would be my recommendation. The 4K looks good, but the Blu-ray's got a 4K scan, and it looks fine as well. And you still have all the same special features and everything that's included in this 4K set is in that Blu-ray set. Again, it's a good 4K for what it is, but it's not gonna knock your socks off. It's not gonna rock your world, anything like that. It doesn't live up to the greatness of the film itself, in my opinion, but it is a solid 4K for what it is. Now, getting into the audio here, we have an LPCM mono track for this. It sounds good. I mean, this is the point in time where movies were transitioning from being silent films to talkie films, so the sound always sounds a little bit faint, like they don't have the microphones positioned all the way right, like the voices are a little bit further away in these earlier films, and that kind of adds to the charm of them. So audio wise, like, you're going to hear some pops, you're going to hear some hisses and stuff like that, but that's just a sign of the times, and that's just what you have to deal with when you watch some of these earlier films. And getting into the packaging here, guys, I absolutely 100% love the artwork on this release right here. I love the orange fused with the black and white as well. And you have that orange on the side mixed with the gray. I just think it looks excellent. I think this entire case looks freaking phenomenal because that orange just really, really pops. Open the case right here. Same thing with the interior. You got this booklet right here, which I showed off just a second ago. You open that up. You got all the characters on there. You got writings on all the characters of the movie. Like the characters in this movie, guys, I know I said Paul Mooney kind of, steals the show, but all the characters really bring so much life and energy to this film. And it really is a fantastic movie. Truly a fantastic movie. But let's close up that brochure. And you got disc art on both the 4K and the Blu-ray, which looks excellent. I'll show you the 4K, but I'll also show you the Blu-ray in its entirety as well, and just fantastic. But let's get into what I would say is the shining spotlight of this release, and that is the special features, because I think this is the best job that Criterion has done on special features, at least from what I have seen. I'm not a Criterion head. I don't get everything they've done. This is probably like my 8th Criterion release that I've watched this year. But this is my favorite of all their special features they've done this year. There's a 37-minute conversation here with Bill Hader, actor and comedian Bill Hader, and you also got Megan Abbott, which I really like Megan Abbott. I've seen her before on maybe she's been on other Criterion releases, but she seems really knowledgeable and just loves movies, so I like hearing her talk about film. But her and Bill Hader talking about Scarface for nearly 40 minutes is spectacular and will make you appreciate the film so much more. But I could honestly listen to them talk about this movie for another 40, 50 minutes. Like, they talk about it with such reverence, with such love, and I just love that. It was such a great conversation. You could just tell they both like really loved this movie, and it was really cool seeing Bill Hader like talk about these older like black and white pre-code movies, because they get into some conversations about other movies as well. But that's a great feature, honestly. Like, that might be in like my top 5 favorite special features that I've watched this year. It is such a great feature. So freaking phenomenal. But you also have a new interview with film scholar Leah Jacobs on director Howard Hawks' innovative use of sound and editing. So this is an okay feature. The woman that, she's very knowledgeable, but the woman that is in this feature that is talking, she's not very exciting to listen to. You kind of feel like you're going to fall asleep when you're listening to her talk, even though she's presenting a lot of really good information, valuable information. And it's a good feature overall and very informative, but it's not as good as that Bill Hader and Megan Abbott conversation for sure. And you also have the alternate ending here from the original version of the film. And I don't know when they added this ending in, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of the ending, but the original ending of the movie is pretty dark. And that's the ending that's on the movie that's in this 4K release right here. it's a pretty dark ending, so I get maybe they didn't think that audiences were ready for that type of ending at the time. But again, it was also the pre-code era, and they were trying to get away with stuff that they weren't getting away with in the later 30s and 40s and 50s at that time. Stuff they honestly wouldn't be getting away with again until the 60s and 70s rolled around. But it's a pretty dark ending, and they kind of replaced it with a more tame ending, a more acceptable ending, I guess, for audiences at that time. But the original ending is definitely the better ending, but it is cool that they included that as well. And I don't even think that Howard Hawks came back to direct that. They talked about a different director came in to do that because he wouldn't come back to do it. He said, no, I've made the movie. I'm not coming back and doing a damn alternate ending. That's stupid. I'm not doing it. And I don't think Paul Mooney came back to do the ending as well, at least the scenes that they shot. I think it's another person. So overall, guys, I can definitely recommend the movie, and I think the features are great, but honestly, I think you're okay getting the Blu-ray. So I do recommend this Criterion release, but I recommend you save yourself a few dollars and just get the Blu-ray, because the Blu-ray looks just about as good as the 4K in this particular release. But I will have both linked down below, guys, the 4K and the Blu-ray from the Criterion collection if you want to pick it up. But thank you all so much for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those bell notifications for all future videos, and follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.